Hello and welcome to United Views 12 Greats of Christmas. Today we are going to be celebrating and talking about the legend that is Denis Law. Now, before we talk more about Law, let's introduce you to today's panel. And once again, we've gone above and beyond to search out for these guys. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember a very iconic picture in the early Fergie days which said, "Ta-ra, Fergie." Might have been a banner, not quite sure what it was. I know the perfect man we can ask about that. Hello, Pete Molyneux. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Hiya, Ben. Pleasure.
Now,
It was a bed sheet, Ben.
Oh, it was a bed sheet, was it? I was going to say we won't go into too much detail about it because obviously we want to keep it about Denis Law. But that was a very iconic moment, wasn't it, in your life?
It was, yes, it was, and I'm still dining out on it.
Well, let's not forget our other guest as well. We've also searched up for one of the most loved United fans, a guy who just absolutely loves the club and its history. Niall, thank you for coming on, mate.
Big pleasure. No problem at all. Delighted to be on with you guys.
Thank you very much. And today, of course, we are talking about Denis Law. So make sure you join us on Twitter at United View as well, as today we relive our Law memories. Now, in 1962, Denis Law joined United and stayed for around 11 years. He was a great goal scorer and led United to most of their glory in the 60s. He became the first Manchester United player to win the Ballon d'Or trophy, and his legacy lives on today through the United Trinity statue, which you would have seen if you've ever visited Old Trafford. He is a centrepiece in that. Now, Denis played 404 games for United, as we look at his fact file. That was in all competitions. He won the Football First Division twice, the FA Cup, Charity Shield, and the European Cup at United as well. In terms of Premier League appearances for United, Law made 309 appearances, scoring 171 goals. See? He was a true goal scorer. Now, we'll go on to our three memories. Guys, we'll come to you in just a little while about your personal and very own Denis Law memories. But before we do, I just want to quickly go through a few with you so that we can just quickly chat about the man himself. Now, our first memory is during the 64 and 65 season. Denis Law won the Ballon d'Or, as I've mentioned, and helped United with their first title since Munich. Law was the top goal scorer that season. Now, Pete, I'm going to come to you first. I mean, how important was Denis Law during that title-winning season?
Tremendous impact. Obviously, him, Best and Charlton played in that 64-65 team. It happened to be the first season I watched United's first team, so for me it was a great time to start watching football. But obviously, Best, Law and Charlton had everything, but particularly Law. You mentioned his goal scoring there, Ben, and I think in all the games he played, something like 404, he scored 237 goals. And if you just say the figures quickly, you can miss the point that 237 in 404 appearances. He was an incredible goal scorer. He had lightning reflexes. He used to follow every ball in from every shot anybody made and snap up chances if the goalkeeper spilled it. But it was his fieriness, his determination, his will to win. He'd never want to come off second best, Denis Law, and he always gave everything when he crossed that white line for United.
Yeah, I mean, you was mentioning there about his goal scoring record and the goals. I mean, Noel, just coming to you quickly, I mean, he wasn't just a goal scorer, though, was he? Tell us more about his footballing abilities. You said his strength, his courage, his nature.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people, is a bit of a misconception about Denis Law. Off the ball, you know, such a creative player as well, a lovely passer of the football. You know, I often sort of refer to him, obviously, he very similar to Ruud van Nistelrooy-esque in his finishing. He didn't score too many goals from outside the box. But the one thing you really see if you see the highlight reels of Denis is how good he actually was at passing the ball and bringing people into the game. Quite like Rooney in many ways. He's a cross between Rooney and Van Nistelrooy is the way I'd like to I sort of perceive Denis Law as a footballer. And you know, I think that's one part of his game that people really, you know, don't seem to give him enough credit for.
That's a great like quote you've just done there. For anyone who didn't watch Denis Law, that is the one. I mean, going on to memory number two, which obviously we'll talk more about Denis Law in 1968, he was part of the United team to win the club's first ever European trophy. However, injury meant he missed the final and semi-final. Now, we spoke about how good he was as a player, Pete, but he couldn't play. However, he did have a massive influence on the squad, didn't he? Tell us about his influence in and around the squad and as a person on that final during that Champions League winning season.
Well, he was still captain of the team, the club captain, so he was still a leader. He played his part in the games leading up to the European Cup final against the Maltese side and against Gornik and Real. But he'd had this knee injury from about a year or so before, and he was never quite the same after it, even though he's still a formidable player. But, I mean, he spent that night in a hospital bed in Manchester, so he couldn't actually be at the final at Wembley. But I'm sure Busby, the talk he gave to the team was about doing it for Dennis, because he'd been such a character for United in the 4 years that build up to that, Ben. As she said, with 5 years, the FA Cup win, a couple of Charity Shields, and a couple of leagues. Dennis Law was pivotal in all those, but it was really sad that he missed that final. It was on a par with Scholes and Keane missing the '99 final, and he never got the chance again. But he still played his part in the league and the European Cup that year. And now I was just mentioning some of his great strength there, particularly his heading ability. He was only 5'9". I don't know what that is in meters, but it's about 3 inches off 6 foot. But he could leap and climb and hang in the air to head balls home or across the box to other players. It was phenomenal with his leaping.
I mean, one thing I do love about Denis Law as well is I was looking online doing a little bit of research and just to be ready for this show, just to try and out-intelligent you, Pete. And one of the things I didn't see, and I come to you with this now, is like he didn't wrap himself up in controversy, did he, at all, Denis Law? So do you reckon this was the biggest low of his career, missing this final?
Yeah.
Sorry, Niall.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. For a guy like that to be so pivotal. And, the build-up, obviously, the season, and I think it was 63, 64 when he scored the 46 goals, and to help, rebuild Manchester United, and obviously we're, the first team, English team to ever play in Europe, and then to go on, and after the disaster, and, help the team get to the level it reached, and to ultimately miss the semi-final and final, it must have been a devastating blow for him. But as a person as well, you don't get nicknamed the King for nothing. So I think that's testament to the kind of guy he was, around the players and around the dressing room. And the other thing, if you ever listen to an interview with Dennis, he's quite frank and he's quite honest about things, and he calls it like it is, as much as he's a little bit sarcastic and funny at times. But he's a pretty straight up guy at the end of the day, and I think that's what led him to be such a popular character in the dressing room.
Cheers, Noel. What was you going to say, Pete?
Just that the fans absolutely adored Denis Law. Yeah. The Stretford End particularly absolutely adored him. And the song they had about, son of a fisherman from Aberdeen, played for his country when only 17. His football magic is a sight to see, and he leads United on to victory. And it just summed it all up. It was so special.
I mean, it was a shame, I suppose, how his career ended at United, wasn't it? I mean, we've already mentioned the injury, and the injury did taint the end of his United career. He was allowed to leave United on a free transfer. He chose to move to the other side of the city. He had played for City before, however, he chose to end his career with Manchester City. Now, Pete, I want to come to you because I reckon you're the right guy to ask this question too. I mean, when you heard the news, obviously, first of all, that he's leaving, he'd be going on a free. What was your reaction? And then what was your reaction when you heard that he'd be joining City?
Yeah, it's well, obviously it was a long time ago, the summer of '73, and.
But Pete, it was just like yesterday, mate.
You're right, and I'll tell you about it now. Really, there were some shenanigans went on, sadly, between Tommy Dock and Denis Law. I'm a big fan of Tommy Dock. He did a lot of very good things for United, but he had to break up that old team. The other managers had suffered because they didn't break it up, old Farrell and McGuinness. And Denis Law was kind of promised a future at Old Trafford and by Tommy Dock. And he went on holiday to Scotland in the summer and heard on television that he'd been transferred. So it was a bit unsavoury. It was a very unholy way to treat one of the Holy Trinity. But so really, Tommy Dock got rid of him. He could have done it more with more ceremony. He joined City. I think nobody held a grudge against Law for doing that. We all wished him well because of the service he'd given us. And also, of course, he'd played for City earlier in his career. And I think we knew then also that it was probably Denis Law's swan song. You know, he'd get another season. But to be honest, Ben, at the time, most United supporters were biggest worry was how we were going to avoid relegation. You know, United were bottom of the league, 72, 73, 74, you know. So these were dark days, sadly. And losing Law amongst all that was one of the sad elements.
I mean, you've just mentioned then about how United fans wished him well. Noel, I'll come to you now. I mean, joining a rival side never goes down well. If you don't hear any United fans saying, well, yeah, he was good, but he joined City, so he's no longer a United legend. No United fan ever says that about Denis Law. Does this just show how good he was in a red shirt?
110%. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about that game and the goal that was scored. You know, that goal will have no consequence. United would have been relegated regardless, and I think that's a bit of a common misconception amongst your sort of, you know, fair weather fan and people who don't really, you know the history of Manchester United a huge amount. But yeah, you know, Denis Law was an absolute legend. You know, you don't get called the king as I've mentioned for nothing. So yeah, you just forget about the City times, the Blue Noses, and then and you just remember the good times that Denis, you know, he's a legend of the club and he's contributed a huge part to the history of Manchester United. And you know, people tend nowadays to forget about players like that, but we certainly don't at Manchester United, and he's a legend.
Unless it's Carlos Tevez. There
yes.
we go.
You know what?
Couldn't say better myself.
that goal he backheeled in against United in April '74. That was his last kick of a football in earnest in British football, on British soil. He went to the World Cup in '74 with Scotland, but he didn't play again for a league team, any other team. And so that kick was his very last. So maybe it was just meant to be that. But Niall's spot on. We had to rely on Birmingham losing that day and us winning. And Birmingham won. So whatever would have happened at Old Trafford that day wouldn't have had any difference. Made any difference on us going down. Birmingham put us down, not Denis Law.
Well, I've got to say already, just off of the 3 memories which I've read out to you guys, I've learned an awful lot. This has been the best program by far I've done so far. Thank you guys so much so far for your memories. However, there is sort of one more thing I want to do. I want to learn more, guys. So I'm going to come to you for your memories. Noel, I believe you've got an extra special memory to tell us about Denis Law.
I do, yeah. I was a young fella many a moon ago in Portugal, then in Vilamora, and Denis happened to be staying in the place we were staying, the resort complex, and just an absolutely lovely guy. I was at maybe 10, 11 years of age, 12. I'm not sure, it was a long time ago, but just a great guy, laughing the whole time, just very easy to approach, and just a nice memory from when you're a kid to see your idols and people that you've seen in the histories and the folklore of Manchester United for years.
I mean, yeah, what a guy, what a player, and what a guy. I mean, what about you, Pete? What memories have you got from the early days of Denis Law?
Lots on the pitch, Ben. Key goals, important goals, but he was a specialist at, and I think he got this in his time in Italy, when he was with Torino after he left City. The overhead kick, which was quite new in English football then, but where you just take off the ground completely and do a bicycle kick. And Law scored one against Tottenham like that around August '68, a beautiful goal like that. And best he crossed it, and it just within a split second it was in the net, and Law had his back to the goal. I think he did it as well in a cup tie in '65 against Burnley, similar thing. But Denis Law's trademark, his signature, apart from his lightning reflex and his goals, he used to always play with his cuffs over his hands. So he'd pull his shirt right down on both arms and hold on with his fingers. He'd hold on to his cuffs and they were over his hands. And even when he scored, he'd raise his left arm, I think it was his left arm, might have been his right one, and still holding his cuff, his arm is shoot in the air. And every schoolboy across England, when they scored, around 63, 64, 65, used to copy that Denis Law poise. Or pose. Unless they were really bitter and twisted and supported somebody else. Every schoolboy wanted to be Denis Law.
I was going to say, sorry, I was just going to say now, Pete, I was just going to say, throughout that story, you were smiling ear to ear. Did he just have that effect, Denis Law, when you was watching?
Definitely. Denis Law had an impish grin and an impishness about him, Ben. I mean, he could get into a fight. I saw him have a great scrap with Ian Yore at Old Trafford in '67 against Arsenal, squared up to him. He gave Jack Charlton a bit of a swipe, but he had a lovely side to him when he wasn't involved in a battle on the field. And he'd have jokes on the field. He'd crack a few funny, he'd do some impish things just by turning away from the goalie, then just quickly turning around and facing up to him, and always smiling, always laughing. He was just absolutely a tremendous player for Manchester United.
It's amazing to hear about. Absolutely amazing to hear about. Well, guys, I've really appreciated your input, but now it's time to stick you up against each other. We're getting along fine so far, but I believe that no great show or no special show is completed without a quiz. Now, guys, remember, you're watching this right now. It is, of course, Denis Law Day. So if you've got any memories or you want to let us know how you've done in the quiz, comment below or tweet us at The United View. Throughout the day, we will be doing loads of different bits and pieces on our Twitter account to celebrate the legend that is Denis Law at The United View, and make sure you subscribe too for the rest of the 12 Greats of Christmas programmes. Right, so guys, are you ready to go up against each other and take part in the little quiz?
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to this. I reckon Noel's a little bit scared though. Noel's intelligent, but I mean, Pete, you know it all. However, I will say that some of the questions which I got from online and done my research about, Pete and Noel, you've probably both spilled the beans about most of the answers on the questions anyway. So if you've been watching the programme, you'll know some of the answers to these questions. So have you both got your pen and papers at the ready?
I do, yeah.
Right, okay, so we'll go with question number one then, guys. What we'll do, we'll go through all the questions and we'll come back afterwards for the answers, okay?
Cool.
So question number one. Which Italian side did Law join United from? Which Italian side did Law join United from? That's question number one. Moving on then to question number two. Which team did Law score against on his debut? Which team did Law score against on his debut? Question number two. Moving on to question number three then. How many goals did Law score in the 64-65 championship winning season? I've got three choices for you. Is it A, 30, B, 29 or C, 28? How many goals did Law score in the 64-65 championship winning season? Was it A, 30, B, 29 or C, 28? Oh. Let's see how you do with that one. So that's a multiple choice question. Let's go to question number four. What part of the body had Law injured to make him miss the Champions League final? What part of the body had Law injured to make him miss the Champions League final? That's question number four. So moving on to the final question and question number five. Who was the manager of Manchester United when Law left the club? Who was the manager of Manchester United when Law left the club? They are the five questions. Noel and Pete look like they've done pretty well, judging by faces. How did you do? Well, if you're taking part in the quiz and you don't know the answers just yet, pause right now so you don't hear the answers. So pause now. And if you're still with us, I take it you're ready for the answers. So let us know how you do. Comment in the comment box or tweet us at The United View. Pete and Noel. Right, let's start with question number one. Pete, we'll come to you first. Which Italian side did Law join United from?
Yeah, I think that was Torino.
No, did you get that one?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's a point each for Torino. That's the correct answer. Question number two. Which team did Law score against on his debut? No.
I'm going to have to guess there. Burnley.
What did you go for, Pete?
West Bromwich Albion.
It was West Bromwich Albion. Well done, Pete. Sorry, Niall. That's 2-1 so far to Pete. Right. Question number three is a multiple choice question. How many goals did Law score in the 64-65 championship winning season? A, 30, B, 29, C, 28. Let's go with you again, Noel. What did you go for?
28.
What did you go for, Pete?
I'm thinking it's 29.
Well done, Niall. You put it all
Woo!
square to two. It was C, 28. What a tally. What a tally, 28.
Boy done good.
Question number 4. What part of the body had Law injured to make him miss the Champions League final? What did you go for, Pete?
Yeah, his knee.
No, did you get that?
Same, yeah.
Yeah, well done. That's 3 at the moment. It's heating up. We go down to the final question. I expect you've both got this one right. Who was the manager of Manchester United when Law left the club? Let's come to you first, Niall.
Tommy Docherty.
Pete?
Yeah, Tommy Doc.
It was Tommy Doc. Well done. A draw, 3 apiece. Well done, guys. I haven't got a tiebreaker question, unfortunately. But if you want a tiebreaker, I could probably sort one out.
I don't mind. It's up to Pete. Pete, you decide.
Oh, I'm happy with an honourable draw.
No, I'm happy with that.
There we go.
Go on then.
Let's leave it with an honourable draw then. Guys, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you. Your memories are just incredible. And of course, after hearing them bands from the new generation, even the older generation who are watching this, his memory is going to live on. Denis Law is a true Manchester United great. Guys, thank you for watching. Be back tomorrow for another 12 Greats of Christmas. But for now, go over to @the_United_View as we celebrate Denis Law, and what a player he was. Thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers, Ben.
Cheers. Thanks, Ben.